Welcome to the State Network Podcast. I'm Jim Sparks, and I'm here with Major Shevaun Malone of the Great Alaska Division. Hello, Major Shevaun Malone.
Hello. Hello, State Network family.
It is the State Network family. Major Shevaun is a legend, a true legend in the Western Territory.
You're ridiculous.
How many years were you at DYS?
I was privileged to be able to be at DYS for 11 years in 3 different divisions.
Unbelievable. 3 different divisions, 11
awesome.
years. And it's, as you know, it's different with each division, right? The kids are completely different.
Yeah.
But
well, some things
Shevaun,
are different, some are the same, yeah.
Well, that's true. I think the issues are mostly the same. It's just the approach might be different. And so, and speaking of approach, Shevaun is one of the most approachable humans that you could find. And teens love her and adults love her. But she has the gift of being cool with just about any kid. That is not something that most of us are gifted with. But she is currently the Corps officer up in Fairbanks, Alaska.
Fairbanks, Alaska. Yes, sir.
Have you witnessed the Northern Lights?
You know what? Not since I've been a Corps officer here. But here's the deal. I have every opportunity to because during the winter, it's on our local newscast. Every day they say, and the Northern Lights are moderate or, going to be really out tonight. But who wants to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning, man? No way.
Oh, my gosh. Shevaun.
Yeah.
It's the Northern Lights.
I know. I've seen them before, though. I have seen them before.
Okay.
Because, I was born and raised here, grew up here, so yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
My family desperately wants to see the Northern
Come on
Lights.
up. I'm podcasting from my house today. Plenty of extra room. Sparks family is always welcome. Yes.
Cool. Well, before we get into the episode, we always take a minute to talk a little bit of youth culture. And since being in quarantine, we've been more connected to our screens. And TikTok has caught fire because people like to dance and see
super
themselves.
Caught fire, yeah.
I am not on TikTok, full disclosure. I don't think it's not necessarily a space for me.
Yeah, people don't want to see me on that.
But there's a great article. I will link it in the show notes put out by YPulse. And it's the 5 favorite social media platforms that Gen Z and millennials are on now. I do think we should be talking more about Gen Z because millennials is now kind of an older generation, but we still like to be the millennials. But
we tend to be blaming the millennials for everything these days.
The poor millennials is just.
Sorry, guys, it's not your fault.
They're sitting there going, "Hey, it turns out you were the ones that created me that are the ones that are complaining." Yeah. So they gotta get over it. But what I find interesting is we're talking specifically about teenagers in this podcast, and in the 13 to 18-year-old one, Instagram is number 1, YouTube is number 2, Snapchat is number 3, number 4 is TikTok, and shockingly, number 5 is Twitter. I was really surprised to find that teenagers are still on Twitter, and so my guess is that it's because celebrities are still very much using Twitter, and you can interact with them or have the chance to interact at least. Right. I think if this study was done maybe last year, I should probably look up some past studies that Snapchat was probably higher. It does seem to fade right now, but Instagram is kind of the hanging out, and that's kind of fascinating. Shevaun, up in Fairbanks, is social media use any different than what it would be in more urban settings that you've been in?
From what I've seen, it's the same. I mean, I have to say, I serve here in Fairbanks with shout out to Captains Matt and Charlene Morrow and their youngest daughter, Maya. She's becoming a TikTok master during the quarantine.
Okay.
So, yeah. She's doing pretty good. So, it's the same. I think it's the same everywhere. And I think that, one of the reasons that teenagers love social media is it allows them to be connected. I don't always think it's true representation. We understand that what's going on in life. But yeah, absolutely. TikTok, Snapchat. Yeah. No Facebook, interestingly enough. That's for older people.
It is, and actually in this study, Facebook is number 4 for 19 to 25-year-olds, and then it is number 1 from 26 to 37-year-olds.
Yeah. But hey, I love Twitter myself. I tell you, it's one of the first things I check on my phone when I wake up in the morning. Get in the Twitter.
Okay, is that your place?
Yeah, big time. Yeah, I don't even, I'm sure teenagers are on Twitter to check the news, but that's my source for news. Is I go to Twitter, right? Yeah, I don't watch the news or anything anymore. And you can get some valuable information. You can get some crazy town information. Tiger King memes were awesome, and those threads were fantastic. Lots of fun there.
It's no shock to me that you were a Tiger King fan. I didn't see Tiger King. Here's some full disclosure. I do not have a Netflix account at all, and I know I've been mocked mercilessly by a lot of people. But what's weird is I don't watch a lot of TV anymore. I don't know why. I don't have I didn't know. It's not like a moral stance or anything. I don't watch a lot of TV. By the time my kids go to bed, we're all hanging out, and then I'm just kind of sitting. I pull up my phone and I do reading, so I miss out on some of that kind of stuff. I read up on it so I can speak the language.
I think you'll be able to make it in the world. Not having seen Tiger King, you're going to be fine, my friends.
I read up on it to know that Nicolas Cage is rumored to be working on something, and if Nicolas Cage is doing something, that kind of shows me the level of what Tiger King is
perfect.
At.
Exactly.
So I don't feel like I'm missing stuff, but that's interesting information. Please read the article in the links, because we're all trying to produce content, and we're all trying to reach audiences in a new way, and it's really, really important that we pay attention to where our kids are, and to try to create content in those in those places. And
I think it's important for parents to understand where their kids are digitally and to have an understanding of those things. I mean, it's easy for us as parents to throw our hands up and say, I don't understand that. But it doesn't. It only takes a few minutes to read an article such as that to kind of understand where they're at and why they're parents.
Absolutely. And, I'll put some other resources in there for parents as far as social media kind of oversight with your kids. I've got some great stuff in there to read that. But, yeah, check it out. It's really cool. But let's get into the podcast.
Right on.
Question 1. At what point, Shevaun, in your life did you know that youth work was going to be your thing? That this is it. I love youth work.
I've always enjoyed doing youth ministry. When I was a teenager in my core, grew up in Kenai, Alaska. That's where I came to know the Lord. Was invited to Vacation Bible School, got saved, and been there ever since. I had an opportunity as a young person to do some youth ministry, but I didn't. So I've always had a passion for that, and it's always been something that's been important to me as a Corps officer, even before I did DYS, as a DYS. But it wasn't until I was a DYS, and then I was a DYS again, and then again, and I thought, oh, wow, okay, either I've really screwed this up and they're giving me one more chance, or I guess I'm doing an okay job, right? I mean, when they told me the third time, I was like, no, really? But I love it. I mean, even as a Corps officer now, I love it. And I love, seeing young people come to know the Lord, but also seeing young people mature in their faith. It's really interesting today. You get your Facebook memories, older person still on Facebook. You get your Facebook memories that pop up. And today, one of my memories was a post that I had made a number of years ago with a couple of young people that I had on my camp staff for many, many years. And now they were both involved in youth ministry, right, as leaders. That's one of the coolest things is and because I was able to do it for so long, to see young people kind of grow and mature in faith and then take on leadership responsibilities as well. So it never was like, oh, I guess I'm going to be doing this. It's like, oh, I guess I'm going to be doing this, right? And I'm really grateful to the Salvation Army that they were able to give me an appointment that was really, that matched the conditions. We'll be forever.
Yeah, and yeah, kind of go back to what you were saying about seeing someone that you either mentored or had a kind of moment in their life, and to see them turn around and be a leader and doing that something else is
so
that's
cool. What a
it's hard to describe. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
such
really
a
really neat.
privilege. I'm so thankful that God's given me that.
Yeah, and what I find interesting about that is it's not always the kids that you think will too. It's it's like I always laugh at like a camp directors conference of how many of the camp directors were fired from camp. Like you just never
so
know.
true.
You really don't.
I know.
You just don't know.
God can redeem anything, my friends. It's true.
Yeah,
It's true.
It's crazy, but
Yeah.
so you Shevaun have a gift to get kids to connect with you pretty quick. I mean, right away. Give us some tricks. Like, what's your technique? Like, how do you get it so quickly?
Well, there's a couple things. First of all, full disclosure. So, my dad was a politician, right? And so, from a very young age, we were taught to. Not that he paraded us around. He didn't do that at all. But we saw my dad in action, and we saw how he connected with people, like the importance of the handshake, which we're obviously not doing now. But as a DYS, I used to do that with kids, and if they had a kind of a wimpy one, I'd say, "Come on, get in there." But here's a little trick that I've used for years, and I do believe that God kind of gave me the ability to remember people's names. Like I can just do it, and I don't.
Yeah.
I don't have a great memory and other things, but I can just do that. But there's a lot of times where I don't. There are some times where I don't remember kids' names, right? So I would always try. I mean, I would recognize kids as I would go throughout the divisions or be at people's floors. I knew I'd interact with them. Couldn't always remember their names, but I would always say, "Oh my gosh, hey, it's so good to see you. So great. We had such a great time at summer camp. Because that's probably the place where I knew them, right?
Right.
Because that's where most of the kids come from. They kind of look at me like, "It wasn't summer camp." I mean, at the youth rally, right? So I try to find a point of contact where I knew that kid, so they would recognize that I had remembered them, right? I guess I'm a pretty outgoing person, so it's not hard for me to go up and talk to strangers and just interact with kids, even the ones that are really quiet. Towards the latter years of being a DYS, I was really convicted about reaching out to the introverted kids. I'm not an introverted person. You can probably understand this, Tim. I don't know what that life is like. So I really had to figure out, those quiet kids too also need to be recognized and remembered as well. So those are just a couple tricks, like just try to remember people's names and point of contact.
Yeah, I think remembering kids' names is. It's got to be in the top 3. Of most important non-negotiable things in youth ministry. I learned the importance of that early on. Luckily, when I was 19, I worked for Polar Heart Rate Monitors. It's a running watch company, and the vice president of the company, he was in a booth with me selling stuff, and that guy was remembering like people's names, and we were in a giant expo hall, and he was popping, and I watched their face like flinch when he said their name, and I thought, wow. And I go, man, you're really good with names. I go, that's a gift. And he goes, no, it's a discipline. And he goes, it's a discipline, and everybody could do it. And I've learned that if I know that their names, they're going to start buying stuff from me because I have a relationship with them. And so I was like, man. So I really committed to try to learn names, and because I was lazy. And so when I worked at camp, I tried to memorize 50 kids' names. That was just a goal of mine. I was good at it some weeks, and some weeks I was terrible at it. But it was reinforced to me fairly early on. I was at a grocery store during a break day in a city not close to camp. And I was walking around the corner, and I bumped carts with another cart. And this little girl looked up at me, and I was like, Tasia.
Yeah.
And
you just see their face light up.
I just happened to memorize her name, and I remember what cabin and area she was in, and part of it because she got in trouble a little bit.
Well, yes, you always remember that.
But it came to me right away, and her mom, I looked at me kind of weird, obviously, because why does this grown man know her name?
Yeah.
And I was like, from Camp Gilmore. And she turned to her mom and was like, hey, this was Director Jim from Camp Gilmore. And we had just an incredible conversation. And it was just reinforced there how important it was because the value in that. And we, the thing is we as adults feel that value too. We want people to say our names too. My name's not Buddy or Kid or Little Dude or anything like that.
Yes.
That's demeaning, really, ultimately.
Well, and sorry, but you've never been in this spot, but I have a very unusual name, right? And so my whole life, people didn't pronounce it, couldn't spell it. And so I think that's another thing too. It's like, it's important for me to, I want people to know and remember my name. And then I thought, if I want that, then I know kids want that as well. So it's a big deal. I remember the first summer I was DYS at camp, I told my camp director, my program directors were going to give the kids name tags. And I won't mention who that person was, but the one of them was like, name tags? That's dumb. That's a lot of work. We're not doing name tags. And about 2 weeks into it, he was like, these name tags are cool, man. You get to know the kids' names, right? And the kids feel special. They know that they're remembered. So yeah, names are a big thing. And I think that's one way that you can really connect with young person. You can remember their name and call them.
Yeah, and you brought up your name being said wrong. I used to think it was funny to hack up people's names, but I've learned over the years it's not funny. It's who they are, and we have to go out of our way to get it right and to say it right consistently.
And there's no shame in that. Like I have an unusual name, and when I come across an unusual name, like from a camp kid or whatever, I never try to say it. I say, tell me how to say your name. Like tell me. So don't let me try to butcher it and pronounce it. Tell me, right? And I think that helps them.
Yeah.
Names are a big thing.
Yeah. So that's all very good information. How does your approach change with kids from various backgrounds? Does it change, or is it just the same approach?
I think it's the same approach, but I think once you get to know a kid and understand where they're from, then maybe your approach changes, right? In the Salvation Army, I think that we would all agree that we usually, a lot of our kids that we work with don't often come from stable two-parent families, right? And so I think that we, going into a situation, we might not know where that kid's coming from, but once we get to understand who that kid is and where they're coming from, then your approach has to change, right? You understand that, I had a kid that was at camp because his grandmother didn't want to take care of him anymore, and his dad was in prison. Right? So we had no idea about the kid's information or his background or anything, right?
Right.
But once we got to know that child, we approached him in a different way. So I think once you get to know a little bit more about a kid, which takes time, right? Takes some investment, then your approach does change. Absolutely.
Yeah. And so we talked about it, that you've lived in different parts of the Western United States, and you've encountered a wide range of kids. What is the same with all of them, and then maybe what is kind of different?
Yeah, it is really interesting because I've worked I've been all the way from one end of the West Coast to the other. I was in San Diego, Sacramento, Seattle, and then I spent some time in Colorado Springs as a Corps officer, and now in Alaska, right? And so some things about kids where they live is different, but some things fundamentally are the same, right? Kids want to feel loved. They want to know that they're important, right? But there are some things about, how the way that kids interact with each other and with adults is different based upon their culture and where they're from, right? Probably being in the Northwest, we had a wide variety of kids from different places, right? We would do, Say Summit, youth councils, and I've had kids from downtown Seattle and from, Great Falls, Montana. And you can imagine those kids are going to be coming from different places. But when you get down to the core of it, all kids need to know that they're loved and they're special, right? They might react a little bit different based upon where they're from or their cultural experiences. But I think at the basic level, kids are all nice.
They want to be that. You're right. And that's been my experience too, in traveling to different areas, working with kids. They want to be known, they want to be loved, and they wanted to be treated well. And that's, really, that's kind of the simple approach. And for youth ministry and working with kids is how can we best love and show them that they have value. And sometimes
you have to, in order to to be able to form those relationships, you have to understand where they're coming from. I mean, you have to understand, maybe not, everything about their home life, but understand, their community a bit, their church a bit, their home situation a bit. Because kids can also be guarded, especially young people that come from those kinds of situations. They tend to live in a place where they need to protect themselves at all times, at all costs. And so maybe sometimes you need to break that down a bit so they can understand that they can trust you. You do love them. Sometimes that takes some time.
Absolutely. I can remember early on, I don't know why I started asking this question when I was kind of newer to doing youth ministry, but I knew that particularly a lot of the kids that we serve don't have traditional families. I think it's a safe way to say it. But so I would just say, who do you share a house with or share a place with? And I think I grossly underestimated that question a lot of times, because I really got a sense of like, oh my goodness, how many people live in that place with you, or you're by yourself virtually. It's heartbreaking, but what it does give you that kind of it turns on the empathy a little bit more generally, and then your approach becomes different. But I also found that a lot of kids are, there's a good group of them that are very guarded about that, and I'm very sensitive and be like, oh yeah, no, that's cool. But there's a lot of kids that they want to talk about that and tell you about that, and maybe even just need to talk further about that because no one's asked them like what their space and that kind of stuff. So
I think that's one of being in youth ministry. I think that's one of the greatest things we can do is to provide a safe place for kids to be able to have these conversations. I work with lots of young people, and exactly that. I would say the same thing. Well, who takes care of you? Not like your mom or your dad, because a lot of kids don't have, it's grandma or auntie or whoever, right? Who takes care of you most of the time? And when you start to discover that, and when you work with a young person, you get to know them, you can kind of see as those walls start to come down. And you're right, sometimes they've never had an opportunity to talk with anybody about it. And I think that's one of the great privileges that we have being in youth ministry, especially in the Salvation Army. I used to tell my camp staff, when you think about, you have a young person that comes to camp and maybe they've had, their mom's had 3 interactions with social, these family services worker at the Salvation Army. Now they're putting this kid that they, on a bus with people they've never met, sending them to a place they've never been. Just imagine the trust that parent has in us as the Salvation Army. And as you work on that relationship with that young person, they can come to trust you as well. And maybe you're the first person they ever talk about this stuff. The first person that they felt like, okay, this is a safe person. And so I think that's a great, sacred privilege that God gives us, that we have that opportunity to be able to speak into a young person's life and provide a safe place for them to do things that maybe are scary for them or challenging for them. And you can help to, there's that opportunity to speak to them.
Yeah, it's and it gets heavy, and it gets heavy, and but it's good too, and each one of those interactions, I think, helps us as leaders to advocate for them more and have a better understanding and better decision making to advocate for whosoever. It doesn't matter who they are, or where they're coming from, or what they believe, or any of that kind of stuff. Is how do we get them into a safe place where they could talk freely and feel supported and feel loved, and that's ideal, obviously. Shifting gears a little bit, what type of teenagers do you struggle with?
When my young was a teenager, that was the news. No, just kidding. You know what? I don't know that I would struggle. I don't know that I would say that I would struggle with any of them. This might come as a shock to you, but as much as any teenager can dish it out, I can take it and throw it right back. And so sometimes you need to do that, right? Sometimes when you have those teenagers, I think about my Girl Guards that I had when I was the Girl Guard leader in Tacoma when I soldiered there. I had some girls that were had no problem telling me what for, right? And but the thing that I would do is I would give it to them right back, right? So I think when you can create an equal level playing field, and the teenagers know, okay, I can't necessarily give it over on her all the time,
right?
Then you can begin to break down those barriers. But I didn't. I mean, as far as struggling, I didn't really have a struggle with most. I mean, I would get frustrated sometimes, and that's natural. But you just gotta kind of walk away and go, okay, all right, I can do this. I can take you on, and we can get through this. Right? We can get to the other side of this.
Yeah, I laugh because I get asked this question quite a bit when I'm traveling around, and my answer. I'm getting better at it, but it's still a struggle. It's usually in the camp setting, and it's homesick campers. It's like I don't know what to say because I'm like, this is the most magical place on earth. I don't understand why you want to go home. And so like when I worked at camps, they'd be like, "Oh, Jim, we got a homesick camper." I was like, "Oh, you know what? I got a meeting, and can you get somebody else?" Like,
Jim!
Oh, seriously, I actively avoided homesick campers, and then I was like, I can't do this forever. And I've gotten better. I have some techniques, but I really struggle because I'm like, but the weird part is,
camp is the most magical place. I agree. Yeah. I totally agree with that. But here's the thing: I was that homesick camper. I did not go to camp until I was 12 years old.
Wow!
I didn't do it, and so. That really helped me as DYS. I was like, we will not send a homesick camper home. I wouldn't do it because I knew what that kid was going through, and I knew how to pull him out of it. I just had to make sure that I had a camp staff member that was committed to doing that. But yeah, I was that homesick camper. I didn't go to camp, but I knew that if I could get that kid on the other side, they'd have the best week ever. So yeah. They're hard. They're hard because they take constant one-on-one for days sometimes.
Yeah. I laugh now because as I'm getting older, I want nothing more than to spend more time at home. so like I probably have more empathy now for it because I'm like, dude, I just want to be at home. I don't want to travel anywhere. I don't want to be anywhere.
Lucky for you, this whole pandemic thing's working out, dude.
It really has been gold for me. So I have that. But so Shevaun, what advice would you give to a young leader that is not too much older than their youth group? This is a hard age group for young leaders because they're given kind of a little bit of keys, if you will. And but they're just slightly too much older. So what advice do you give to those young leaders?
If you're committed to wanting to doing something in your core church setting, don't give up, right? I myself, I was really fortunate to have core officers who, I know they believed in me, that believed in me and just kind of said, hey, you think that's a great idea? Well, you need to do it, right? And they helped me and supported me. And hopefully I would think that young leaders that would be in that same situation would have core officers that would do the same. However, if that's not the case, find other people that can be a support to you, right? If you're committed to wanting to do something with young people in your core, then do it, right? I can't imagine there's a core officer out there that would go, no, really, I don't want you to do that. I don't want you to do that youth ministry. I don't want you to have that youth group. I don't want you to do that Bible study. There might be, but I think that young leaders that, we want to encourage them as much as they can, and I would encourage them to press on with what they want to do and to find other people, other leaders that can encourage them and support them.
Yeah.
Whether it's their that's find someone else, right?
Yeah, that's good. It's hard. I mean, I was 19 and they gave me the program director position at a camp that had 55 staff members and 200 kids a week. Yeah. I was like, who made that decision?
Yeah.
Like,
what were they thinking? Yeah.
Ill-advised decision, and I remember it was a challenge because there was a lot of staff members that were older than me, and I was telling them what to do. It was weird, but I think what helped me a lot through a lot of that is kind of what you're saying is finding another person to be able to kind of mentor you, and you could talk things through with them and run stuff by them and talk about your failures and yeah, I kind of work that out. And I think as now that we are more seasoned leaders, we should say that, is that I think we should be, actively looking for young leaders to help them as well. I think a big mistake that we do is we just send young leaders out and just say go, and we'll check in once in a while. I mean, the reality is when I was 19 as a program director, I rarely saw the DYS in our camp, and so like I felt alone a lot of the times, and so and I think we should be more proactive in that, but less telling them what to do, more of listening to say, hey, what's going on, man? How are you feeling? And what are some good things? What are some tough things that you're dealing with? Because chances are we've dealt with maybe part of what their tough thing is, and so we could give them our experience. Not that that's gonna solve anything necessarily, but let them know that they're not alone. I think that's the most common thing that I've run in with young leaders is they feel alone. Like this is the first time that this has ever happened. No, we've all been told I hate you.
Yeah.
Like
I've had office equipment, staplers thrown in my face. Yeah, all kinds of stuff. Yeah, it's crazy. I would also say too to adults, who have young people. Sometimes a young person just needs to be reminded and encouraged that they're a leader, right? And I think that as as officers, as adults in our churches, that we sometimes can see a spark of something in someone, and I believe that's given to us by the Holy Spirit. That we just need to say to this young person, "Have you ever thought about this? Because I really see that you can do a great job." Yeah. And I think that's been another privilege that's been mine, right? To be in youth ministry for so many years as DYS, to be able to say, I know you probably never even thought about service corps this summer, but you've never even thought about that. But I tell you, you are perfect for it. You need to do it. And you're like, what? You think, right? Sometimes young people just need the encouragement. They need to be reminded, hey, you can do this. You are capable. I've seen, little glimpses here and there of skills and talents and abilities that you have, and God wants to take those and blow them up. So let's get you on the path to doing that.
Yeah, I could say that's very true in my life. I was very I did not like to be up in front of people for anything, and my corps did a lot of musicals every year. They were very big and stuff, and I was like, nope. And when I went to camp, I would see all the people doing the skits and the songs, and I was like, nope. And at the corps for Corps Cadet Sunday, I was like, I will be an usher because I did not want to be in front of anybody.
Wouldn't even read the scripture. Come on.
No. And so I didn't want to do all that stuff. And I can remember being at camp. I was a second-year staff member. It was an awful summer position for me. I was in the kitchen cooking, and but a leader said, "Hey, I think you could do all this stuff." And inside, I thought I could too. To be honest, I was so petrified and scared.
You just needed someone to
yeah, and just say, hey, I think you could do it. And then it was like, all right, I'm going to go for it. And it was like I just needed someone to give me the freedom to say, go for it. And that's very, very good advice, Shevaun, to be speaking into young people that way. In the developmental asset world, they call it finding their spark. Which, as you know, I'm very partial to this philosophy.
Yes,
but
especially that asset, I would imagine. No, I'm developmental assets right on.
Yeah, and it doesn't take much. It's weird. I think sometimes in youth ministry, particularly working with teenagers, we think we have to do like a billion things, and sometimes it's the most simplest things that could radically change a young person's life. And it could be just one question: What do you want to do when you grow up, and how can we help you get there? That's technically two questions, but thank you. But just simple things like that I think, it's like sometimes you just get in program mode and you forget kind of the basics. I laugh because my sister just had a baby, which is very exciting, but it's bringing a bunch of memories up from when we had our kids. And I was laughing because when our oldest, we were in the hospital and he was crying. It was in the middle of the night, and I jumped up and I was trying to help him. I'm like, what is going on? And I changed his diaper, and his diaper was fine. I was doing all this stuff, and I was trying to figure it out. I was like, this is ridiculous. And I saw a nurse walk by, and I go, I need some help. He's crying because, it was exhausting. I was frantic. And she goes, well, you should cover him with a blanket. He's probably cold. And I was like, one of the most basic things, and all I had to do was just wrap him. I was trying to think of all these clever hacks and all that stuff, and it was the most basic. Hey, just wrap him in a blanket. And as soon as I did, he went to sleep, and it was quiet. And I think we run into that problem sometimes because we maybe try too hard to do too many clever things, but we skip some of the basic things. And just asking those questions that you bring up is critical.
Well, and I've had young people come to me over the years and say, talk about situations and instances and conversations that we've had together that have had, helped them clarify or had an impact that I don't even remember. I just don't even, not to say that it was, but I just don't remember, but God somehow used that, whatever it was, to spur them on to something. And I'm like, first of all, thank you, Lord, for the opportunity. I'm grateful for that. But we just sometimes we don't even realize. Yeah, and it's not about, I've had plenty of opportunity, being at US for so many years to have, lots of big flashy things. But when it's all said and done, 5 years from now, no one's going to remember, your youth council's theme T-shirt. But hopefully they will remember, the interaction or the time that they went forward with their youth leader, their officer, and their lives completely shifted directions. Yeah, that's what we want. That's what we do when we do. That's what we do.
Yeah,
we have an opportunity for God to speak into their lives and change them.
Yeah, I think the same too could be in the opposite of just a very large warning is to be caught up in all that stuff and miss the opportunity. Is you could easily miss a lot of things. I remember being stopped at an event by a youth leader, and they're like, "You never say hello to me." I was like, oh, I thought I do. I usually like to say hello to people. I don't purposely not say hello to people. And I was like, "Well, I'm sorry. What do you mean?" They're like, "Well, when we're here, you're just moving around all the time, and you never really stop to talk to people or to me and that kind of stuff." And at first, I was like, "All right, back off."
Whatever, dude.
I'm trying to get this thing done.
Yeah.
But the more I thought about it, the more I was missing basic fundamentals to get that done. So I just got lights in my office. But so Shevaun, thanks for being here.
Absolutely.
If you are interested in any of the resources we talked about in this episode, will be linked in the show notes. And don't forget to subscribe to the Say Network podcast or on iTunes, Spotify. All these links will be in the show notes. And don't forget to join us on Facebook every Wednesday night at 3 p.m. for online youth night. Kids and parents are invited. Thanks, and we'll be back next week. Shevaun, thank you again. Absolutely. We call her the godmother of DYSs because that's what she is. I encourage everyone to connect with her on social platforms, on Twitter apparently, and your life will immediately receive a boost of positivity as soon as you get to know her. My family's coming up to see those northern lights.
Absolutely. Come on up. Seriously. Not in the summer, though. You're going to have to come in the dead of winter, so be ready.
I'm ready.
All right. Do it.
All right. Goodbye, everybody.
All right. Thanks, Jim. Bye-bye.
Bye.